So, Dave, we ended up getting a win.
What?
Maybe a win that
No, surely we tied.
did not feel too much like a win. So I have some notes to go through on just kind of where my head was with this game. Let me see here. So
The banner says a dicey home win.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Well, hey, it was a win. Okay.
Yeah, win's a win.
That's right. It was 3 points, right?
Good or bad, it's better to win.
It was painful to watch. I am happy we won, but I'm very worried about the team.
Why is that, Mikey?
Well,
what did you see?
I'm worried about that. I will get to that. I'm just going to go on a little bit of a rant here. So just be patient with me on my bullets.
I'm ready.
Chicago is a terrible soccer team.
Agree.
So we got lucky, even under those circumstances.
Agree again.
Our fullbacks keep going up like airplanes with little impact while creating defensive exposure at cost.
Agree again.
It was clear Chicago was going to draw it up 1-1 late on.
What?
Atlanta played down to their level. The 17s cheering at the end brought the energy, I think, which brought the lucky goal.
Yes.
So kudos to the fans for still bringing it in the 90th minute when we needed that energy.
Heck yeah.
It made a difference, people.
Heck yeah.
But overall, it was not an entertaining soccer game.
No, it wasn't.
Yakos was probably the only entertainment.
Fair.
And he has tied the MLS record for the most goals and starts as a player.
Right on.
Good for him.
You say Yako, I say Makis.
Yako.
Makis.
Yako.
Makis.
That's more chance. And
let's go.
Let's keep this chance simple and do more player chance, people. That's another good one. I think he also has 5 yellow cards. Simon might want to look that up on his phone separately. So I think he's got 5 goals and 5 yellow cards. And I don't know what point you get suspended a game, but feels right. I don't know.
It should be about then. No, actually, I think maybe that suggests that he didn't quite have his 5th, because I think it is 5 yellows and then you're suspended. Yeah. So maybe he only has 4. Maybe it seems like he has 5.
Yeah.
But maybe not.
So hopefully it's not as hammy. Dave, you think it was a strategically timed sub. I'm still not sure when he kind of just sat on the ground and went out in the 60th or 70th minute there. Atlanta United did not move the ball with purpose, did not look clean, not a lot of urgency outside of Yako, right? I can't really say that anybody had a great game or a strong game. And particularly when I think Amar Sedic should be subbed on.
What?
That's saying a lot.
I told you, people. If you're out there listening to the podcast, the real Mikey Dobbs is kidnapped somewhere out in the Caribbean on a Disney cruise. Princesses, give us back the real Mikey Dobbs.
Pineda keeps doing the same thing that doesn't maximize their talent. I don't think Aruja's soccer IQ is very good, and I'm not sure he's going to progress under Pineda. Miguel Berry should just be cut from the team. People now think that Diop might be good, but I think those people are probably wrong. He had a nice block at one point, but I hope Westberg is.
Tell us what you really think.
I hope Westberg is okay, and we'll be back next weekend, but I'm not sure. I think Abram needs a chance. Gutman had a really off night, and we need new chance like we just did Yaku. Okay, so out of all those bullets, I don't know where you want to go. As I said, I felt the game was pretty painful to watch. I know you did too, because you were sitting next to me, but why was it a painful watch, Dave?
Well, really interesting. Last podcast, we said, Pineda deserves a ton of credit for realizing that we need 3 in the back, right? And that was killing us all last year, right? And so he had this weird unbalanced system where Gutman was staying back, Lennon was going forward. It was a little bit, who knows what was going on when Gutman was out, because Wiley was taking his place. But, we went right back to our starters. We had Gutman and Lennon on the outside backs, and you thought they were going to go back to their system, but no. Right from the very beginning.
You pointed out from the kickoff, right?
Both of them bombing down there. We got our airplanes back, and I was like, really? Now, here's the thing. So Pineda clearly does realize that having 2 back is a problem for our team. Right. And because what happened was the moment they went bombing forward, Sosa actually dropped from center midfield in between the front, in between the back two, right? So we were actually back three in the back, right? So, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
right?
Like
so we had three in the back.
But why go into players that are a similar skill set with, I mean, better skill set, frankly, with Araujo and Etienne, who are your more natural wingers, forwards? Why push airplanes into your true airplane space? I don't get it.
Okay, here it is. Right. So Araujo has been a complete non-factor, right?
Yeah.
Please stop basically optimizing our team for Lennon and Gutman at the expense of Araujo. Here's my analogy. If you have a Ferrari in your garage, are you going to go tooling about trying to impress people with your Honda Accord and your Toyota Camry?
No. When you have Dom Traore on your team, you don't push other people into space. You have everybody shift it, transition it out wide, get out of the way. Let him take people on and just push it past them.
Right. Now we do have one,
and accept when he makes a mistake too, right? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah, he's going to make a mistake. Now we do have one problem, which is I really still think Araujo inverted is a nightmare.
Yeah.
He should be out on the left side. Now the problem with that is that for some reason, so no teams in all of MLS and all of Europe really, it's really, really hard to find a really dynamic left-footed winger, right? So what do? We have three of them. Araujo, Wiley, Etienne, all left-footed, all wingers, right? We have three of them. Like, who designed that on the roster?
Yeah.
Right? Now, I get it that we're going to say play with one inverted or whatever, but
yeah, he can cross the ball really well with his left foot out there on that natural side.
Yeah, and he can run by people instead of just slowing up and coming in the middle. He can push it by people and try to run by them. So the other thing I'll say is about, I think now that Pineda has maybe realized, so he's maybe realized that we need to have three in the back. That's why Sosa was dropping in between the back two. I still don't love that because, again, the moment the ball turns over, Sosa's in between her back two instead of hunting in the middle of the field. But, that, to be fair, that was what Tata was doing. He had our outside backs going forward too, and then he had Lorenowitz or one of the defensive midfielders. It was Remedy for a while was dropping in between the back two, right? So that's not a uncommon thing. The thing that was different, and I would say to you, Pineda, here's the difference, right? So Tata, even when he really wanted those guys getting out early to give us an option, they weren't continuing to go all the way up to the front line. And so they weren't closing the space. If you had one of those guys closing down Almiron's space, he never would have gotten on the ball as much, right? You don't want that. You got to get him on the ball, right? So what's happening now with Gutman and Lennon going forward is they're just crowding the space. Araujo and Etienne, in this case, the two outside wingers, or the forward of the front three, they had no space. And so there was zero dynamic. The only dynamic in that game was through the middle with Giacomakis. And if you notice, it's not just because Giacomakis is somehow a much better player than Araujo or Etienne. I think he's very good, but it's not that. He's just not getting crowded. So he has the room to drop into space and to go.
Yeah. And it's just, you just watch the shape of the team from particularly our seats where we're a little elevated on the second level. I just don't understand why we have to complicate things. A very clean 4-4-3 shape is what we should be seeing from our seats. That is well organized. And you and I briefly talked about this in the stands there in the game, that it's, it is a problem for MLS in terms of seeing, these teams stretched out a lot more than European soccer teams. There's much more of an accordion early on in MLS games or at any given time.
But to be honest with you, our only dangerous moments become when the game gets stretched, because that's the first time, that's the only time that Araujo and Etienne have room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when that's not happening, they're so crowded. The only when it works is when Gutman and Lennon have had to come so far back and they haven't yet gotten up forward. If we transition really quickly, then it becomes the dynamic that it should be all the time, right? But the thing is, it shouldn't have to come because it happens to be we get the ball and go forward quickly. They should be able to watch the game and time that run and do that even when we're not transitioning.
I just feel like when you look down and you see like a true back four, this team is should be impossible to score against, especially with Sosa.
Sure.
Like that's what that's the picture I want to see in my head when I'm looking down the
and
field.
Lennon and Gutman don't have to be phenomenal defenders if they're back, because they just take away options, right? And the back two are excellent. Sosa protects them well. I think, to be honest, Josetu was awful in this game. I mean, just awful. I mean, I don't know what's happened to him, whether he's lost confidence or whether he wasn't a good player to begin with, but he was awful. And he doesn't defend. He was giving the ball away. I mean, it was just terrible. But so I think, to be honest, it should be Sosa behind Ibarra most of the time. And if you take that, that's a really defensive center midfield, right? And so then we got those attacking players. You're like, well, if that's defensive midfield, why wouldn't you send Lennon and Gutman? And I'm saying yes, but just do it one at a time and do it when it's on.
Yeah.
Don't go up there, stand there all alone and be static, right? Pick your spot, Lennon and Gutman. Wait, be patient till when it's on, and then go.
Yeah, because then you have three in the back and the luxury of Sosa or another midfielder. If they're able to scramble back and give you four, you have four.
Well, so what should happen is, so let's say Lennon goes forward on that run. Then the back three who are remaining would be Gutman, Parata, and Robinson. They just shift a little bit over, so they're three, right? And so that way it's Miles Robinson covering it in that case. And so you don't have crazy stuff like Ibarra or Sosa out of the center midfield trying to cover in for Lennon, right? So it's the guy who's already there. And then if Robinson goes out and it opens up a gap in the middle, you have Parata there. But if, let's say, there's something, whatever, Sosa can track a run and cover for that occasionally. No problem. Because that extra guy has to come from his spot anyway, out of the midfield. Instead of him having to haul it all the way out to right back and haul it back in, as we talked about it, when you have that, even if he goes and makes the play, now Sosa's supposed to be playing to Sosa, right? And that's a problem, right? It's impossible.
So I don't know if you want to go to tactical board or just talk theory on how to watch a soccer game, Dave. Do you want to do a little segment on that?
Well, I do, absolutely. Do you want to finish some of the comments in the game, or you want to return to them afterwards?
Yeah, let's save that till a little bit later. So let me go back to a couple of my little hot flash notes here on the game. So what about my comment on Chicago being a terrible soccer team?
It was funny because so we were watching the game, and so not only Atlanta United's, they actually had the better the play in the first half, but it wasn't that dangerous. We scored the goal. We had one more that was offside that came back. But outside of that, we had a lot of possession, wasn't too great. But the first half was okay, right? I mean, I really thought too many times Lennon and Gutman were crowding it, and it was killing the dynamic. But overall, we were okay in the first half. In the second half, we were absolutely atrocious. Chicago dominated us. And we kept saying, it is only a matter of time. I took it in my notes and I said, if we don't score, we're getting tied for sure. And you actually recorded it. You said, let me record this. I don't know if you have that.
I'll see if I can find it.
While you're trying to pull that up, what I'll say is that you said, well, maybe Chicago's not even good enough when we, are that bad to actually score a goal. And I said, don't worry, we'll make it even easier. You have it?
I don't know. I'm checking it out here for some play.
We're giving up the equalizer for sure. We deserve it.
There it was. I did find it.
That was a good 10, 12 minutes before we gave up the equalizer. So, Simon, if you'll go to the actual clip, what I want to say is that what I said is that, we'll find a way. We were so bad. I'm like, we may have to make it real easy for them, but we were so bad that it was going to happen. So here we have the clip of the goal that we gave up, right? And it's, unbelievable, right? So Ibarra has come in the game at this point, right? And the Chicago player, the Polish guy, what's his name? I can't remember his name.
I don't know.
It's so hard to pronounce anyway. But anyway, he's offside. He never even got back on side. You'll see in the clip.
Okay.
And Ibarra plays a ball back Do you have any idea who he was playing
No,
to?
it just was a brain fart.
Because he's on the attacking half of the field.
Yeah.
So it's one thing if you're, even, I mean,
I don't even think there was much pressure on him.
there wasn't a lot of pressure on him. So if you're going to play it all the way back to the goalkeeper, you usually don't do that from our half of the field, particularly if there are Chicago players in between you. Right, that's a weird thing to decide to do. And second of all, he never hit it that hard. He played a delicate, beautiful through ball. So you want to play the clip?
Yeah, you wonder if he's trying to pass it to Gutman here.
I think he was trying to pass it to one of the backs. Play the clip.
Here we go. Ball's up in there. I think he was just thinking one of those center backs was just standing there.
I mean, so he's offside by a mile, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the best delicate through ball I have ever seen. I mean, what was that?
I don't know.
I mean, if you had been paid off to throw the game, you wouldn't have even made a ball that obviously bad.
Yeah. No, and I think up until that point, Chicago was so bad that even though I said they were going to come back and tie, which they did, I was like, I don't know, maybe not, because they're just so bad. They were missing like
I said it's going to take something. We're going to have to give them something even better.
Yeah.
And we did. We gave him a breakaway. Now, in fairness, he didn't score in the breakaway, but then we still were scrambling around and we gave up the rebound and the goal. But I have to say, as bad as their goal was, our goal was one of the worst defending I have ever seen in the MLS.
The one that got bombed down to Lennon and he cut.
It's a beautiful cross ball to Lennon,
yeah.
And Lennon just gets to it right before it's about to go over the end line, and he plays it back, and it goes right through the defender's legs, who's trying to do God knows what, and he kind of like stumbles over his own feet, trips, and then the ball goes through his legs.
The first goal.
Yeah. I mean, I almost couldn't believe that was not on purpose, that he was trying to give us a goal.
Yeah.
Like maybe there was some betting going on in this game, and Chicago was like paid off to give up the first goal, and then some other bet about halftime. Like, wait a second, you gotta give, and then we had to give them a goal. I mean, this was like the Keystone Cops. I mean, it was absolutely they gave us a goal, we gave them a goal. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah, tough game to watch. So what else in terms of like just calling out some players here, right? So I feel like Parata had a poor night as well. You mentioned Josetu being
Parata was awful. His defending was awful. The playing out of the back was awful. He gave away one ball,
time to give.
He just passed it right to them. Right?
This is the moment where you are Pineda, right? You're like, hey, we brought in Abram, unless he's doing something shambolic at practice that we don't know about.
He might be really bad, but that's the thing. We don't have the confidence to say that I mean, with some of our coaches that we've had, you would say at least you have the confidence in the talent evaluation. You'd say, look, clearly he's not seeing something in practice, but we have too many times seen somebody stay in the starting lineup for a long time, and then the person who comes on eventually is way better. The obvious example of that being Gardino for Rios Novo at goalkeeper.
And I think this is going to be a classic example of Pineda again sticking with the lineup that it got the win. He didn't see anything wrong with Parata having an off game and that warranting a change, right? He goes back to he just goes to his comfort. There's comfort in the consistency of,
I have to say, when I saw the starting lineup, I was like, look, that's like one of our best teams we've put out in a long time, right? I mean, it had Sosa instead of Ibarra. It had Yakimakis and Almada back. It had her back for, it was pretty close. I mean, obviously we wouldn't have.
Yeah, but we've always said we wanted Ibarra over Josetu with Sosa and Ibarra.
Yes,
and then let Almada be our attack.
Right. So that's what I would have said. Ibarra would have been the guy for Josetu. But other than that, we had pretty much, and I think, to be honest, as much as we paid for Etienne, Wiley's a much better player.
Yeah.
And he really should be starting over Etienne. To me, I would have said Wiley and Araujo, even though Araujo has been awful recently, over Etienne, both.
What did you think of the goalkeeping?
Well, you
I
know,
mean, Westberg was fine, right?
Westberg was absolutely fine. I have no idea why he went out. Like, did you see anything?
They said it was a leg injury. That's the only thing
Yeah,
I
but
could
did you
read.
see him get a?
No, I didn't see anything. I don't know
I don't
whether
remember
it's
him getting
whether
clattered or
he got a
anything.
knock, which hopefully he's got a more of like a bruise type of thing than a muscle issue.